we're looking at close to 100 million
Yep.
total value distributed to yappers, to the Kaito ecosystem. We will definitely see a lot more projects trying to go this angle. Right now, our focus is on the Capital Launchpad, which will allow like a broader set of yappers to participate in like capital formation in the markets. And we will have a lot of exciting deals that's coming up there.
But what was the aha moment of Web3? Like what brought you into Web3?
I dropped out of university where I was already posting on my thoughts. You know, a group of Australians that were running an NFT project at that time, NFT Analytics, reached out to me on Twitter. I think Bitcoin was maybe at like 1K or something. But I saw Yuhu standing there and then I decided to approach him. I didn't know what project he was actually building.
Yep.
I later found out he was building Kaito when he explained to me. He explained it to me as Kaito was like building a search engine for crypto.
Very interesting, yeah.
And obviously, like, you know, we do have a YAPS program where people can be financially incentivized.
Yep.
But what really matters at the end of the day?
Welcome back to the Base Show. This is Sahib here, your host, and here we are today with yet another entrepreneur, yet another builder, yet another KOL, or I would say actually, in reality, an AI geek, right? We've heard so much about AI, we've heard so much about Web3, we've heard so much about KOLs, but today I am here to dig into what actually kicked off what we all know as the InfoFi meta. And none other than we have Sandra Leo from Kaito. Welcome, Sandra.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. Sandra, I feel like everyone has seen your face on Twitter, now even TikTok actually. You know, and everyone somehow knows you as Sandra Kaito.
Yeah.
And Kaito is not a small name in the space anymore. I feel like it's a name that almost a household name in the Web3 space, right? You guys have grown immensely. But I am actually, you know, very keen on understanding who is Sandra.
Yeah.
Right? Share me a little bit more about what's your background, right? Like where have you graduated? What, you know, was this actually like what you studied in university? Tell me more about yourself.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Yeah, super excited to be here because I think, you know, I've gone through a lot of different journeys in my life. And I think I haven't really been able to like tell my story, tell people who I am because like people know me from like Twitter. They know me as like the girl wearing the red dress.
Oh, and
right.
you are
and
here
I
again.
am wearing the red
Your
dress.
signature.
So yeah, it's kind of like the signature color. And it brings me a lot of luck. So that's why I'm wearing this today. But essentially, yeah, so I grew up in Malaysia. Grew up with sort of a family of 5. We lived in Malaysia for basically my entire life.
Nice.
Until high school. Actually, the last 2 years of high school where I basically decided to move to a completely different new country in Europe. So I basically went to Netherlands to go to like a boarding school.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So that was like essentially the start of like how I started to travel, how I started to see the world because I was living in the boarding school where there were literally people from 150 different nationalities. So I had like 4 roommates in the 2 years that I was there. And my 4 roommates were from entirely different countries.
Wow.
So I always kind of had a perspective where like I wanted to see the world. I wanted to explore new things and seeing different cultures and seeing different types of people and like different ways of growing up really gave me a whole new perspective on like my work, my life.
Yeah.
So like I always knew that I wanted to be on the frontier of tech, frontier of technology, which is like where my interest in Kaito AI sort of really came into place.
Right.
And like growing up, as I mentioned to you as well, like my family was always sort of super visionary, I would say.
Right.
Specifically my dad, because whenever I was a kid, he always told me about like what Apple was doing.
Right.
And like, you know, obviously like when iPhones first came out, my dad like had the first iPhone because he was always very sort of inspired by new tech.
Got it.
And I think as a kid, like I could see how it inspired him. And my family has always been like from a very creative background as well.
Interesting.
So,
when you say creative means like more into the tech side, but is that...
So creative as in just, we always find our own ways to craft our own path.
Interesting.
So as a kid, like, you know, I was from, obviously I'm Asian.
Yep.
And people have this perspective of Asians where like, they're always like, oh, like you're Asian. So like your parents must have told you to study math, physics or whatever.
Become an engineer.
Yeah, it's always like that, right? But for me, you know, I never had this like expectation to like be a doctor.
They gave you the freedom to
exactly
be creative on your
yeah.
own. Yeah.
But I think because I was allowed to be creative as a kid, that allowed me to like really just explore anything that gave me interest.
Interesting.
Yeah. And I think like through all of it, I've always found interest in like just networking, like meeting new people, as I said, from like the boarding school, exploring different cultures, perspectives, and that really, I guess, brought me all these perspectives about like investment or like just AI in general.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But were you always an extrovert, or that kind of unlocked when you actually went to the boarding school?
Yeah, I wouldn't say like I'm too much of an extrovert. I would say like I am an extrovert when it comes to like work, because like everything in my life is pretty public.
Right.
I mean, obviously we were talking about this earlier, but like, you know, it's like I'm on Twitter.
Yes.
You know, like people kind of know me a little from like my public presence,
Yep.
but like a lot of my life is pretty much public.
Yep.
So I kind of have to have that extroverted personality.
There's
But
always
I
the pros and
think
cons in that.
being extroverted or just...
I mean, just being a public figure out there.
Yeah, I think it obviously has its significant advantages.
Yes.
Where, you know, you're able to like network with people.
Yep.
And especially with crypto as well. I think
Especially,
people in crypto are naturally more like inclined to reply you
Yeah.
just on Twitter.
Yeah.
And like people who are in crypto are like just very inviting, I would say. That's the pros, because like if you have a certain like brand or a persona, you're able to connect with anyone virtually.
Yeah.
So like, for example, I made a tweet and I'm like, oh, you know, I want to meet like more people building cool products. And I was able to do that because I was able to just make a tweet on Twitter and like people reached out to me, right?
Well, I would say one thing though, apart from being public, you're a woman as well, a pretty woman. So it helps a lot, right? Because at the end of the day, we just saw so many of these catfishing, personas on Twitter and generally in the internet where they would, fake to be a woman to kind of get more attention.
Yeah, I would say that's a pro and
but
pros
you're
and cons
absolutely
as
right,
well.
because like if you can be doxxed and you can be who you are, and especially in crypto when there's so many bad actors, it becomes way more easier to be above, in that blue ocean where people actually appreciate real people, right? But so Sandra, tell me, like, diversity, curiosity was always your thing. Creativity was always your thing. I think that was one of the most, advantageous, I'd say, skill set that you may have picked up from your family, because you're right, absolutely right. Even in the Indian culture, we often get like, oh, you have to be a doctor or engineer. That's in India. Thankfully, like, I've seen a lot of these successful people, like, the CEOs of the top 5 Fortune 500 companies today. There are a lot of these guys are Indians.
Yeah.
If you go look at their backgrounds, like a lot of these people were given the opportunity to fail and be creative on their own.
Yeah.
Right. But what was your, let's call it the aha moment of Web3? Like, what brought you into Web3?
Yeah. So I would say, okay, I was kind of a typical story where I dropped out of university.
Okay.
So I only did like really the first year.
Right.
So during my first year, I basically had a summer break. Just like anyone, I was looking for a job. So at that time, I was already like writing online. But this was like writing about like just topics I was learning in university.
Nice.
I was already posting online. So that was always like, I think like when I thought back as to like what I was doing when I was a kid, I was always like trying to share my life.
Right.
So that was like the core of it. And so when I was in university, I was like just sharing things I was learning. I was making myself visible. That was the core. Then, my sister actually works in Web3. So I would really like give a shout out to her.
Okay.
Because she obviously inspired me to like look into Web3.
Fantastic.
Because like obviously like having a sister figure and like her being a founder of a DeFi protocol as well, that gave me a lot of like just inspiration to like look into Web3 and look into like what the real sort of like why are people looking into Web3?
Right.
Because this was like, I think 5-6 years ago when I joined the space. Yep. But, I was really inspired by her and how she was able to like, grow a company of her own in Web3. And, because she was in Web3, I was like, okay, let me look into it as well. And this was when I think Bitcoin was pretty early, like Ethereum just started.
What are we talking about? What kind of price was Bitcoin hovering
I think
at?
Bitcoin was maybe at like 1K or something.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty juicy.
Okay. Wow.
But yeah, so my sister, she told me to like read into Web3,
So
look
she's
into
OG
it.
actually.
Yeah, she's
Do you
really
mind
OG.
sharing what protocol she built?
Yeah, she works in Drift Protocol.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Fantastic.
essentially, like she was, convincing me to join Web3.
Right.
And it was summer break at that time.
Okay.
So I was looking into like different protocols to join.
Yeah.
And at that time, I actually started joining Amber Group.
Right.
Yeah. So I was doing a bit of investments, working very closely with Annabelle, who's
Yes.
a very sort of core figure in Web3 as
Yeah.
well. She's also a woman. So it kind of helps having
Yeah.
these women figures to really inspire you, right?
I've seen that support group, for women with women.
Yeah.
Because I think naturally the number used to be very small. I
Yeah.
think we're growing in number now.
Exactly.
But yeah.
Yeah.
So
So essentially, was inspired by all these women figures that
Yeah.
were in Web3. And then I did the short internship in Amber Group.
Right.
But that was really the start of it.
Okay.
And then I was like, really looking into just Web3, like what sort of permissionless markets really unlocked for people.
right.
And obviously growing up in Malaysia as well, like seeing how you have to make transactions in banks and like
Yeah.
how slothy the process is, like really just inspired me to look into this whole new ecosystem, right? And as I mentioned as well, I was always really interested in like frontier tech. So crypto at that time was sort of classified as a frontier tech,
I
right?
agree.
Yeah.
Wow, but I'm really you started off by saying that I'm another classic story of a dropout.
Yeah.
But gladly you didn't come in for the money.
Mm-hmm.
I think of course a lot of us kind of chased that price action and the opportunity of growing.
Yeah.
But I think that same curiosity kind of drove you into like, all right, so I'm now summer break, I want a job.
Yeah.
What other protocols are interesting? And
Yeah.
then you kind of started digging around. What was your first job then? What did you actually end up doing though?
Yeah,
Did you pick
in
anything
Web3
up? Yeah.
or so Amber Group was like my first internship.
Right.
And then as I mentioned, like I started posting a lot on Twitter. So that was like the start of my Web3 journey when I started posting.
Interesting.
So, when I was joining Amber, I was already posting on my thoughts. And I actually like the other day came across my first tweet and I was like, holy shit, like
Wow.
that was, the way of writing and like the way I was articulating is so different from what I do now. But, everyone has to start somewhere. So I was posting a lot of my thoughts on Twitter, and then this group of Australians that were running an NFT project at that time,
Okay.
NFT Analytics, reached out to me on Twitter.
Okay.
So that's when I told you, like, in Twitter, like everything is so interconnected, and like when people find you, like it's a lot of opportunities come out
Yeah.
of like being public on Twitter.
Yeah.
So just by posting, I think I only had like maybe 1K followers at that time. These group of Australians were building an NFT analytics platform.
Yeah.
And they basically reached out to me and they were like, I'm building this platform. Like, do you want to join me? It's like a pretty much low barrier, not much expectations thing to do,
Yeah.
where you just had to show up during the calls. And like, I ended up like being really, really good friends with them.
That's right.
And I realized like how great of a culture like crypto can be.
Right.
Right. Like people always talk about the negatives,
For sure.
but like the people you get to meet
Yeah.
is actually such a surreal opportunity.
I agree.
Because like nowhere else in the world can you meet such cool people.
Absolutely. I think it just unlocks all the barriers of like any race, geography, age group.
Yeah.
Because like you're meeting so many people of different diversity.
Yeah.
By just being, and actually it's a good point, by being in the same NFT community.
Exactly.
And I think that
Yeah.
that part I will say that NFT community or like NFTs actually unlocked communities.
Yeah.
And brought it to the next level.
Exactly.
Right. So,
yeah.
so I will say that for sure. But interesting, very interesting journey. But so I was just going back to one of the questions you said about your first tweet.
Yeah.
How often were you tweeting then when there was no Kaito?
Yeah, good question. I mean, to be honest, like I was tweeting this pretty much the same amount
Okay.
as right now. Because I think what Kaito really enables is that Kaito really enables, just content to be surfaced.
Yep.
But at that time, like when I was trying to grow my Twitter account, I think actually I was posting a lot more than I was now. Because, I obviously had to post as much so that the algorithm likes me, right? You always have to think about
we'll
the
get
algorithm.
to the algorithm
Yeah.
in a bit, but
Exactly.
it's a very interesting, I'd say, case study to share to everyone who's watching this. That you don't have to be, you don't always have to have 10,000 followers
Yeah.
to be someone that gets opportunities in the
Yeah,
space, right?
exactly.
I mean, you said 1K follower.
Yeah.
You're already getting opportunities and messages and cold outreach.
Exactly. Yeah.
Just because you were being yourself.
Exactly.
And you were sharing interesting insights.
Yeah.
Interesting. Sandra, but what actually led you to Kaito, right? And maybe let's go back one step. So like share with me or like share with us for anyone that may have not heard what Kaito is.
Yeah.
What is Kaito and how did you actually come across this whole opportunity?
Yeah, so I think maybe I've shared this story a couple of times, so maybe it might not be new for people, but I think it's still a cool story to share. So I actually met Kaito's founder, Yuhu, when I was traveling to Singapore. And to be honest, like I'm a person that always believes in like fate and like whatever happens, happens kind of thing.
Yep.
But I don't usually go to Singapore. But at that time, like I went because of personal reasons. And at that time, like stumbled across this crypto event that was happening. So Alpha Lab, now Caladan, was hosting like their first like office party. Like they were moving offices, they rebranded. So they were hosting an event in Singapore. So then I actually saw Yuhu like standing around the corner at the event. I just decided to go. I didn't really know anyone there. But I saw Yuhu standing there and then I decided to approach him. I didn't know what project he was actually building. But I later found out he was building Kaito when he explained to me. He explained it to me as Kaito was like building a search engine for crypto. So like Google equivalent, right, for crypto. And at that time, like I think their project was still very, very nascent. They literally had like maybe a couple thousand followers on Twitter. But it was very, very new. And the concept was like, you're building off-chain data. You're taking things like social sentiment, building things like mindshare, which didn't exist in crypto at that time. So being like very analytical myself, and like as I told you, starting like the NFT analytics company, and then later working in another on-chain company, I've always been like very intrigued by data. So when Yuhu explained to me that they were building like this Google equivalent for Web3, I mean, it just clicked, you know? It sounds awesome. I'm like, wow, like this is combining AI and crypto, things that I love. So naturally, like we stayed in touch. So we were having like calls every week. Like, he wasn't telling me to like join Kaito or anything, but like because we were naturally just intrigued by like the growth of Kaito and like what Kaito could be, I wanted to stay in touch, right? So that was just like natural that we clicked, right?
Very interesting,
Basically, like going back to the question of what Kaito is, we started off as a search engine, which a lot of people, at least if you followed us from the very start, you would know us as a search engine. It's basically the infrastructure layer for crypto. But what we've built now is that we are building a distribution layer for crypto. Because of all these algorithms, all these data that you have, what's next? It's really the reputation layer for crypto. Every single person that has a social profile will want to have a reputation layer. So that's where Kaito really comes in, where I would explain to people as Kaito being sort of the attention and the information oracle for crypto.
Very interesting. Well, I mean, I think just the story in itself is so inspiring because I feel this is where a lot of people get lost. You know, I think everyone often gets very intimidated going to RL events. You know, hey, what am I going to go do at networking events? How do I approach people? And if I do approach people, a lot of people start thinking like transactional from day one, right? I think what you kind of showcased here was like, this is something that sounds amazing. I want to know more about it. You actually took the effort to keep in touch with you, learn more about it. I'm pretty sure you gave your contribution, you gave your ideas, your thoughts, and it landed you in this job that you perhaps now, been enjoying for the past couple of months and, have been striving and continuing building what we all know as like hopefully the next Google of Web3, right?
Yeah.
But the most interesting part here is like, Kaito that was started back then and today, like, what's that journey been like, right? Like, what was that? What was Kaito, let's say 1.0, and perhaps like what is it today that you feel has been a transformative change from the first day who maybe told you about Kaito?
Yeah, so I think Kaito has gone through a lot of stages, and I'm sure you've seen it as well
Yeah.
when you've been on Twitter. But the very initial stage of Kaito is really the fact that what we're building for is that we're building for the fragmented internet and the information that's overloading the internet.
Yeah.
There's so much information out there, but how do you sift through information? Right. And I think before Kaito was really in place, there was no way to like really look for information so seamlessly in crypto. Because when you do a Google search, what you actually get is that you get all these paid sort of ads that are taking up like the page one rankings. But these are not really content from creators. These are just what people are paying. Like big companies are paying for them to be ranked on top,
Fair
right?
enough, yeah.
But that's really how information was being distributed in the space.
Yeah.
It's either, you pay for Google ads to be on top one, because people don't really click through top three, top four page rankings, right? They only look at the first page.
Yeah.
But it's really overloaded by like the paid ads. And then secondly is the fact that when you do like a Twitter search about any crypto topics, it's very hard to like customize like what you're really looking for.
Right.
Because the information that you're getting, again, is pushed out by what the algo wants you to see. And most of the time, like, all these bots that are taking up the space, like spamming, like either like random takers, they're taking up most of the search.
Yep.
So like when I do a Twitter search, even right now, you barely find the information that you want to see, right? So yeah. So really the core of Kaito 1.0 is that we were trying to help people surface information more clearly.
Right.
And what we mean by this is that we've literally built the most comprehensive search engine for crypto. And right now, like it's still a core product of Kaito.
Right.
Because we talk to a lot of funds, and a lot of these bigger funds are actually our customers as well, because they need these data points to be able to make better decisions when it comes to trading, when it comes to we don't frame ourselves as an alpha product, because alpha products die off very quickly, right? And we don't want to be an alpha product because we are an information product at its core. People come to us because they want to find information.
Right.
That was 1.0. But then, we quickly found out that it's good that we are sort of using AI algorithms to help surface data. But a lot of these sort of data points can be hallucinated by the AI models itself. Like hallucination takes place like, in every part of like AI models.
Right.
And sometimes like the AI models can be very biased as well. So this is like where we really took Kaito to the next stage, which is like really combining like our data and market forces to help participants make better decisions. So what we mean by this is that the second journey of Kaito was really the InfoFi.
Right.
This is not new to Kaito, right? InfoFi has existed before with Polymarket, for example, where Polymarket wanted people to bet on the decisions of the US elections, right? Based on information that they got in. And we can see with the US elections is that what happened was that actually Polymarket bets was very close to the source of truth.
Right.
And that's actually what happened, right? Like Trump won the elections, and this was very much signaled by Polymarket. So Kaito really took that decision to build like this InfoFi layer, because we have the best data in place, the best information. How do we involve people all over CT to join this sort of program? It's not really, we're not competing with like X, we're not competing with any social media platforms. It's really that we're building a next layer, right, on top of it.
Correct.
Which is where like the reputation layer, as I was saying, is coming in. How do we give different people different scores based on what they're doing, what they're talking about in the space? It's all based on that model.
Interesting. You talk about InfoFi, and I think as much as you say Polymarket kicked it off, I guess InfoFi meta almost kind of kicked off with Kaito, at least for CT. Right? Now, we've seen metas come and go. Right? We've seen a lot of metas, like we can talk about NFT. I mean, of course, there's stuff like DeFi that's stuck around, and obviously it's a lot of cyclical metas as well, while some metas just die. What are your thoughts about InfoFi as a meta, and where this kind of goes for the next maybe 1 or 2 years?
Yeah. I think a lot of people think of InfoFi as, something that comes with cycles. And as you said as well, like metas come and go.
Yeah.
But what we're trying to do with InfoFi is that we're trying to reimagine a new world for creators. So this is like very different from like, maybe more short-term metas, because what we're trying to do is that we are trying to change the way creators are actually being paid out.
Yep.
Creators are being seen and validated in the space, because we think that like with AI coming into place, there's so many more like AI slops. We're seeing that on Twitter, where like literally
Plenty.
in every single
Yes.
tweet that I'm putting out, I'm getting like hundreds of replies from these AI slops, right? But without Kaito, you can't actually see what's real and what's not. Like especially with all these content that's being posted, because like what you're trying to see is that you are trying to see you want that reputation layer. Because a lot of people actually care more about like who's actually saying what in the space now.
Right.
Especially with like AI bots, like anyone can be posting anything because content can be generated so easily.
Yep.
You can go on ChatGPT, you can
Especially
write,
with AI,
yeah,
correct.
you can like try to rephrase certain things. You can try to like push certain content, like very, very easy because of all these tools that are available. But like, I think ultimately what matters is like what, like people care about which account is actually putting out what tweets. Which is where, like as I said, the reputation layer really comes in, and that's what we're doubling down on the InfoFi vision.
So would you say that this was also always a vision to kind of like decentralize the voices of, I'd say, creators in the space naturally who would talk about projects across the board? Because, I know you mentioned a lot about reputation. You mentioned a lot about who's talking about a particular project. But yet, like, we often see, let's say, the newer accounts, or let's say the smaller creators trying to make it up there, right? And of course, I think this is the beauty of Web3, because this is where, like, Kaito has given so much opportunity to a lot of, let's say, new creators out there to have earned the kind of money that they've earned. But from a distribution perspective, like how do you foresee, the voice of crypto or the voice of these personas talking about certain projects being decentralized or fragmented into into a wide range of creators out there?
Yeah, so I think going back to your question, it's not really about decentralized like content creators, right? Because I think the current model that we have works. It's like we're as I mentioned, we're not competing with like X or anything.
Right.
So like naturally with AI sort of taking place, there will be a lot more like AI rated content.
Right.
There will be a lot more AI slop in the timeline, but it's not necessarily because of Kaito, right? It's because of the rise of these generative AI tools that has led to all this. But obviously, like I think with Kaito, like people often think of Kaito as like starting the trend where like a lot more of these AI generated content are being pushed out. But what we're trying to do is that we are trying to enable creators of all sizes to just do what they're doing, make the content that they're making because they want to put something valuable in the space. And that's the philosophy that I always hold as well, which I want to share to the yappers, because like people are trying to like climb their rankings in different leaderboards. They're trying to make it in like hundreds of different leaderboards. But that's not really the goal of InfoFi, because the goal of InfoFi is really to share what you're sharing if you're aligned with certain projects. And that's what we're trying to push forth, right? Because like projects actually can tell like which yappers truly believe in the projects or which yappers are just doing it for the financial incentives. And obviously like, we do have a Yaps program where people can be financially incentivized to post certain things. But what really matters at the end of the day is your personal brand. So this is what I would always stress to creators. It's like, do you want to jeopardize your personal brand because you want to be on like hundreds of different leaderboards and like you want to climb the ranks of different leaderboards? You want to like game the system, or do you want to like actually have a good established reputation in the space, right?
Damn, that's alpha right there, guys.
Yeah.
Like
So, it's really about, I think, like how do you want people to perceive you in the space?
That's alpha there, guys. This is spot on. Like, exactly what I think we've seen several tweets out there, arguments out there about like how everyone just wants to yap and get onto leaderboards out there for financial incentives, because everyone wants to earn that yaps. And I think I've seen several tweets, and perhaps myself as well. I almost wake up every day looking at how much yaps I've earned.
Yeah.
Right? And I guess that's become like a natural check-in or instinct of everyone that's kind of like, yapping for financial incentives until you realize like, hey, do this because you're doing it because you're having fun.
Yeah.
Or you believe in a product, or you've actually genuinely enjoyed a project or a product, and you want to talk about it because you want to be their advocates, or like their evangelists, or like their ambassadors, for instance, right?
Exactly. So I think a lot of people as well, like, try to be on so many leaderboards, but like projects actually they won't necessarily take you seriously if you're on like hundreds of leaderboards, right? Because like projects want to know that you are very aligned with just a couple projects,
right?
Because at the end of the day, like what projects are really looking for is that they're looking for, as you said, evangelists. They're looking for advocates for them, right? So like advocates, what this means by like advocating for certain projects is that you stand up for projects when the project is facing FUD. You stand up for projects if you want to celebrate like certain wins of the projects. But projects want to know that you are like fully aligned with them. Not necessarily that you're just tweeting about them because they have a new catalyst and it's very short-lived, right?
That's actually a very good point. Very, very good point that you bring up about like, you support them not just ups and downs. And that also comes back to the same part of like you support them not only during pre-TGE but post-TGE as well.
Yes, that's a good point.
Right? Because I think a lot of what we have seen in this space again is everyone wants to support pre-TGE. I think everyone also wants to kind of, I think for a project it works out just fantastically well because like you get that absolute mind share. And then what happens right after that is like post-TGE price drops. And then yes, okay, I agree. In crypto, everything is dictated by price action, right? Good price, good tech. Bad price, scam, right? But I guess this is also where like, we perhaps should be able to see that same group of, let's say, a top 50 or 100 leaderboard pre-TGE should somehow kind of be there post-TGE as well.
That's a good point.
Right?
Yeah.
And is there sort of any case studies that you guys like have seen in the past that has significantly kind of like helped improve the same things that we're talking about? Like, again, I'm not saying that, we've like potentially they must have gone through FUDs or price action wise, it must have gone down. But, have you seen like similar stats of like what case studies you could share out there?
Yeah, personally, I've seen a lot of cases where, it's either like very established projects that are joining Kaito's ecosystem because they want to revive their ecosystem. We've seen Polkadot, for example. It's a obviously very established Web3 project and it's in post-TGE. And what they did was that you've obviously, I think, seen the immense budget that they had for the KOL program.
Initially before the actual, the FUD that happened before Kaito actually.
Exactly. This was like before Kaito was really taking off. But what happened was that Polkadot had a very big budget, KOL budget. But what they were doing is that they were only giving this budget to 17 creators. So obviously like very little people could actually compete to be on this leaderboard. It was like a very internal leaderboard. Before Kaito had their own Yappa leaderboard system where it's a publicly transparent system where, we showcase the top 100 people that are talking about the project in any time frame. But with Polkadot's case, they had 17 creators and obviously they had their own deals, that were happening behind closed doors.
Highly incentivized deals.
Exactly. And it was a very juicy reward. Like creators were being paid like hundreds of thousands of dollars just by making one or two tweets. And the thing with this model is that they weren't able to track like, what tweets people were putting out because there were no system in place before Kaito was a thing. So Polkadot was a good example where they actually decided to abandon the old model to work with Kaito.
And shift to Kaito.
Because they wanted to actually reward creators that were actually posting good content that were actually measurable. Right.
Very interesting.
So Polkadot is a good example for like a post-TGE project that was doing this KOL campaign behind closed doors, decided to pivot to Kaito to have a more open and transparent model. That was one example.
You make a very good point there, I think, because I think they also managed to eventually get someone like ICO Beast on board.
Yes, exactly.
Which also changed the perception of Polkadot to a lot of
Yeah.
the small to mid-tier creators.
Yeah.
Because they all look up to ICO as well.
Exactly.
Right.
So I guess it goes back to the point of like, ICOBs is a very reputable
Persona
in
yeah.
Web3.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean by like, I think eventually as we move along like the AI model,
Yeah.
as we move along the AI curve where like there's a lot more of these AI slops,
Yeah.
there will be premium on like human creators,
Yeah.
which is how these people, ICOBs,
I think
yeah.
his latest tweet just kind of shared some stats as as you said about how people are shitting upon InfoFi.
Yeah.
But he's almost on his way to making like I think 100K
A month, yeah.
on just by yapping and
Exactly.
being an advocate for projects that he actually enjoys
Yeah.
talking about. Yep, if you think about it, that's a significant. That's more than an average Joe's wage in
Exactly.
most of the second or third world countries
Yeah.
out there, which is fantastic. But talking about FUD,
Yeah.
Sandra, I think I will perhaps also say this a little bit personally from my side as
Yeah.
well, just because I run a marketing agency. I guess the quality, a lot of people have spoken and voiced this out
Yeah.
that. Ever since InfoFi has come around, and incentivization has always been the key driver for anything we do in life, and we spoke about this just now. There's been a decline in the quality of content because I feel everyone's just farming for yaps. There's also so many projects that you guys have brought onto the arena, on the table. How do you guys again, I know you've mentioned this several times that this is, you're surfacing the information. But how do you guys kind of, whether that's algorithm or whether that's like the internal infrastructure, how do you guys kind of create that model where, it becomes an interesting flywheel for more juicier content, again, more interesting projects, and then eventually, more interesting, I'd say incentivization models across the board as well.
Yeah, so I saw this tweet recently, also by ICOPs, but when you were talking about the fact that we need better quality content in the space, I do agree. I think it's naturally just where the space is headed. I think what you've seen in the past couple of months is that a lot of people are asking for more cool apps in the space. What we're lacking, I think, up until now is we're lacking cool products for people to talk about. So what we're seeing now with vibe coding being a really big thing, people being able to create new apps, and going back to the fat app thesis is that I believe that we will be getting a lot more cool apps coming up. And personally for myself as well, I'm an avid tester in consumer apps.
Yes,
I love looking at new applications. But what I'm seeing is a new interest in this fat app thesis. And I think this I wouldn't say this will solve the issue of having more high quality content in the space, but I think this will be a good addition. So having more cool apps for people to talk about is actually a really net positive thing for the space. And I'm not saying people are not building cool products right now. I'm more so saying that we need more cool apps because that's really going to help with the distribution of crypto overall.
That makes a lot of sense. In fact, one thing that I've always been asking myself is how many people actually test out these products that they're talking about, right? And I guess one question from that perspective or that angle would be is there a way that we could actually incentivize people based on their actual usage of the app, right? So that gets linked back to, let's say, Kaito's algorithm, for instance, right? Let's talk about an app like Infinix. I think that's by far one of the most talked about, products on Infinix. On Kaito. That a lot of people can relate to as well, right? I think that's one interesting flywheel. But people are genuinely talking about it because they're using it as well, and there's internal incentivization within the app as well. But again, I think this is something that for me personally, so Infinix was an interesting product. Why? Case study, because I've always heard about it. DeFi.app and Infinix. But I decided to use Infinix because of Kaito.
Oh, nice.
Right? So, and I'm pretty sure there's a lot of products out there that a lot of people may have discovered it because of Kaito.
Exactly. And I think going back to your point as well, when you strip everything away,
Yeah.
what really matters is the product.
Right.
So people always say like, you can get away with just attention.
Yes.
I don't think that's true, because like when you strip all the attention, all the distribution that's happening within any product, it really boils down to like how good the product is.
Correct.
Really. And you can go really far if you have really good product combined with a good distribution flywheel, which is what we always tell projects. Because when you mention Infinex, when you mention DeFi.app or like Magic Newton, a recent example that came on board with us, is that all these apps, what they have in common is that they're really simple to use.
Yes.
Newton, for example, is a DCA recurring buy bot.
Yes.
And it's why it's important is that it's much cheaper than traditional alternatives.
Yep.
Obviously, you can run a DCA agent anywhere else, but it's very costly to run one.
So simple as well.
Yeah, and it's dead simple, right?
Yep,
Like
so
people
simple.
love using applications where they can just log on
Yep.
using a passkey like Infinex, for example. It's very simple. You literally use your passkey, you're logged on,
Yep.
you make transactions, you bridge, everything happens in that portal.
Yeah.
So what we're seeing is that people love convenience.
Absolutely.
And people love simplicity. And people that are building around this vision will go really far, I think, in crypto. Because as much as like, people love doing complex like transactions, people love bridging, not love bridging, but like they like
They
a bit
need
of
to.
the complex or advanced like features, right? But majority of the people in Web3 actually just want something that's like that simple to use.
Stupid simple.
Yeah. So
I love that because this is something that I keep advocating as well to my team, to the space, but also like people that we work with at Pandora. Is like, attention is not adoption, but while you're getting attention, make sure you can create that into adoption, which eventually leads to retention.
Yeah.
And retention comes from a good product.
Yeah.
Right. So a lot of what you guys are doing is like helping scale that attention with the right distribution.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it all comes down to how well the product is ready to retain that user base.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. I think to add as well, what we've done with like social airdrops.
Yeah.
So Kaito initially started the social airdrop season in like March.
Okay.
And then what happened was that we realized that, it can't just all be, yapping about a project and like, garnering as much attention and that being it.
Yeah.
It needs to tie into like actual usage
Yes.
or conversion,
Yeah.
which is where we've kicked off the second season, which is the Yap and Earn season, which is what we've seen with like Magic Newton, Infinex. All these products have a usage component to it, which is the actual conversion part that
Right.
that we're looking at.
Yeah.
But what Kaito enables is that we're enabling projects to do this at scale.
Yeah.
Previously, what would have to happen is like you can yap about a project, but that doesn't really tie into like your actual usage. Like how do
Right.
you tie a social profile with actual usage of the product?
Yep.
It's pretty much impossible unless you have like your own tech, right?
Absolutely.
But we are helping a lot of projects like want to tie in the social reputation layer, like who's actually using my product.
Yep.
That actually matters to projects.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Going back to exactly what I was saying about like actually measuring the real usage and incentivizing people based on that exactly at that point.
Yeah.
That being said though, Sandra, what's been like your proudest moment at Kaito?
Yeah.
Because I've seen some crazy stats out there as well.
Yeah.
Right. But what for you personally has been the proudest moment?
Yeah, there's been a couple moments where I look back and I'm like, I wouldn't really want to be working for any other companies. Right.
Well,
And I think that
flex
says
that.
a lot.
Share that. Yeah.
I mean, that says a lot about
love to hear more about that.
sort of like Kaito, what Kaito has built and
Yeah.
like the culture
Yeah.
it's built. Because it's all about like, I think the culture that we operate on.
Yeah.
And I really have to thank like Yuhu for building this culture, which is really that like, whatever you want to do, whatever craziest ideas you have, like Kaito is a place to actually execute these crazy ideas.
Yep.
But I think the proudest moment is really looking back at like how we started. And literally we were a product with like zero marketing. Like marketing wasn't our strongest suit.
Right.
And you would be surprised when you look at our marketing page, our Twitter page, like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
It was literally like, we would post once every like 1.5 weeks. not much distribution at all. And it's crazy that we are now the distribution layer of crypto.
Yeah.
Which initially started as like a product that didn't have any marketing, really.
Right.
So I think, my proudest moment was really like seeing that, like really shaping how that was built out, how the distribution, like how I was like heavily involved in like marketing Kaito.
Yeah.
Even though like I'm not like running marketing for them.
Yeah.
But everything leads to marketing, I realize.
For sure.
So it's like, doing content, doing like product work, everything leads to marketing at the end of the day. Like how do you like market your product well so that people can see
leads
you,
to
right?
more mind share, more trust, more credibility.
But I think it's really seeing how the product has evolved. From its early days to like now, like literally a single like meme that we post would be getting like maybe 100, 200K impressions at minimum, right?
Fantastic. I think that is definitely one to applaud for. And I guess talking about crazy ideas, I think the whole timeline has seen Laudio. Now a lot of all these other like, I'd say experiments that have been empowered by Kaito. That or at least kicked off with the idea, which is very interesting, right? And again, I think you're also being humble, but the latest numbers that we've seen on the dashboard on Dune was like almost reaching $100 million that you guys have distributed to the space in general, back to the creators, which is very, very commendable at the same time, right? So kudos to you, kudos to you, and the rest of the team. Out of curiosity, how big is the Kaito team though?
We have about, I don't know the exact numbers, but it's like around 45 and above.
That's still
around there.
That's still very lean for the kind of
pretty lean
for the kind of operations that you guys are doing.
Yeah.
Talking about marketing though, Sandra, very, very interesting. I'd say analogy that we're having out there. It's like obviously people say or kind of almost would predict that marketing agencies would be out of business now that Kaito is there. And of course, I generally tend to agree that that distribution is perhaps one of the biggest or most important thing with coming in marketing in the space. How do you actually foresee, let's say, Kaito's placement, or was that, or I won't say was that, like is that something that you guys are like trying to complement or kind of disrupt at the same time as part of your roadmap?
Yeah, so I wouldn't say we don't want to be disrupting, marketing agencies, right? If it works for different people, like sure, it could be a complementary thing with Kaito. But what we're really trying to do is that we are trying to alleviate all these black boxes that have been taking up crypto for the longest time. Because when we look at like all these KOL undisclosed shilling deals that were happening, like all these were taking place because of certain, marketing agencies, because they were the middlemen that were connecting projects and brands. So we always had this middleman in like crypto up until now. But what Kaito is really trying to do is that we are taking away this middleman, which are like marketing agencies, some marketing agencies, or some KOL agencies, as you can call it. And we are letting projects connect with creators, without the black box. And what this enables is like, a lot of these content creators were chasing like KOL agencies to get paid because they were making certain tweets, but they had to wait for the projects to contact the KOL agencies and then for KOL agencies to then distribute the payout to creators. It was a whole lengthy process. And, I myself being a creator, I've experienced it firsthand, right? Where it was very much a black box. It's like I would be offered like a couple $100K to, sorry, not a couple hundred, sorry, not a couple $100K, a couple $1,000 to tweet about certain projects. But, I wasn't really getting the payout because I was waiting for certain KOL agencies to get back to me. But there was always this middle layer. And I wasn't always able to like talk to the projects directly. But now, like, any creators can literally get any deals if you put up good content, right? So it's really like, do projects like your content? They can see for themselves what content they want to be pushed out about them. Right?
By the way, shameless shill, but Pandora will never put you on wait. No, that actually that's a very good point, and I guess obviously, I mean, coming from a marketing agency as well, I would say we pretty much always advocate. Platforms like yourself,
Yeah.
I mean, Kaito, for instance, because I think it plays a whole different level of distribution at the same time. And of course, it's got its pros and cons. But I'm very glad to hear that as part of, like, say, the larger vision. You talk about user bases, and you talk
Yeah.
about we spoke so much about CT. I have this thesis, and I kind of feel like maybe we're aligned in that. But
Yeah.
I'll spell it out, and maybe you can give me your thoughts. I have a thesis that no one outside Twitter cares about Twitter, and we live in this whole bubble, it's this echo chamber,
Yeah.
where, like, we're just being siloed into each other's thoughts, right? So as much as this space is big, yet it's so small,
Yeah.
right? And how are you, like, of course, for me, it's like the real user base, or the real, I won't say the real, but like the interesting mind share that we're not tapping into today,
Yeah.
is actually outside Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and a lot of these other, like, platforms that we see. I kind of see that you guys are already, I won't say pivoting,
Yeah.
but adding a lot more manpower and resources, like yourself. I've seen you on TikTok and
Yeah.
stuff. What's the thesis and the game plan behind that, actually?
Yeah, so I think the core of what we're doing with expanding to different social media platforms is really trying to broaden the Yapper base. Because right now we have maybe 200-300K active Yappers.
Yeah.
But we're really trying to get this number up because, as I mentioned, there's so many dashboards that we're pushing out. Like, every single project would eventually want to have their own dashboard. But what we're seeing is that, like, we don't want the quality of content to go down or the quality of Yappers to go down as we increase the number of dashboards. So what this means is that we have to appeal to more people outside of just crypto.
Right.
Like, general content creators that are actually making good content, they should be able to create content about crypto projects if they want to.
Right.
Right. So that's sort of the thesis that we have. Is like, we want to expand the Kaito ecosystem base. I wouldn't just say Yappers, right? But people who are collectively, like, a content creator and who wants to make a living out of just posting content,
Yeah.
they should be able to leverage Kaito as much as they want.
Yeah.
So we're trying to really tap into, at least, like, experiment and see, like, how different, like, platforms are treating their creators, how different platforms have different types of creators even. Like TikTok, obviously TikTok is more, because I spent, like, maybe the last 30 days or so trying to grow out TikTok.
Right.
I made that very public as well.
Yeah.
But it's a very different strategy because you're tapping into a whole different user base.
Yes.
You're tapping into different types of creators. People creating on TikTok have a different strategy compared to Twitter. But I would say the Twitter, like, echo chamber will always be here because that's the main distribution platform for crypto.
Right.
Like, TikTok has a different appeal to different types of products. Like, TikTok maybe appeals more to, like, the I guess more like beauty or just like things that people want to buy and consume. That's TikTok.
Daily life consumer.
Exactly. Or, like, they want advice about, like, real life content, or they want traveling advice because people usually go on TikTok to search, like, what should I eat if I go to Bangkok, for example, or what should I eat if I go to Singapore. So all these things are maybe what TikTok audience likes. And then when you go to Instagram, it's different because people like photos there. So I would say the main sort of level playing field will always be Twitter for crypto. And so that's why, like, our focus is always going to be Twitter. But we are trying to experiment with different user base, different types of distribution platforms, because we think that, like, Twitter will still be here. But can we, as Kaito, collectively tap into different distribution layers outside of just crypto?
Interesting. So, well, I guess to all our viewers here that are trying to experiment outside of Twitter, this might be a good green field for you guys to, like, experiment around as well.
Yeah.
Sandra, you are a very active user of AI.
Yeah.
And I've seen you actually use a lot of different apps and tools.
Yeah.
I guess now this comes back to your curiosity of tech, data, everything else. 3 apps that has changed your life, and not the
Wow.
usual chat GPTs and stuff.
Yeah,
Like,
ChatGPT did make a whole lot of difference in my life.
for
though,
sure.
For sure.
I'd like to hear more about the apps that you use almost on your daily life, has
Yeah.
changed your life, that is let's put it this way, underrated. Not
Okay.
many people talk about.
Yeah, so I would say the first app outside of ChatGPT would be Claude.
Okay.
So the reason why I really like Claude, and you can say it's just another LLM, right?
Yep.
But what's good about Claude is that they have this artifact feature, which allows you to literally create apps or websites or landing pages in just natural language questions
Yep.
or prompts. So I've done a lot of apps where, like, I have a crazy idea. I want to build this app in like a minute. I use Claude because you can just share this like artifact. They call it artifact to your Twitter audience, or like if you're building on TikTok, for example, and you want to test different ideas, it's very easy to go from ideas to results,
Right.
with just prompting. And that's what Claude has really enabled. So yeah, I built a lot of like just like random apps. I also posted an app that I kind of built yesterday.
Okay.
In just minutes, which is like a
Missed
app
that
where
one.
it's an app where you can discover related movies.
I saw it.
Yeah.
I saw that tweet.
Yeah. So actually, my boyfriend was he was
Yeah,
asking me to look for a movie
Okay.
that was similar to a movie that we watched recently.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, why not use Claude for that, right?
Yeah.
So I literally built an app in like a minute. A couple minutes, obviously some iterations
Yeah.
here and there, but and connecting it to a public API where I can get the movies.
Fantastic.
But it really enabled me to do it in just minutes, right? Whereas like historically, I would have to go to deploy an application myself,
Yep.
code, look for the movie API myself manually. But Claude has allowed me to do that in just like minutes,
I agree.
which has really, really transformed the way I create things. Yeah.
Very interesting. Yep.
Yeah.
This is
So that's one app.
Okay.
So the second app I would say is Google Gemini.
okay.
And the whole ecosystem of products that Google has built.
Yeah.
So when we talk about like AI, or at least like chatbots or LLMs, we always talk about OpenAI, ChatGPT,
Right,
because
right.
that's like the immediate like
Correct.
response. And like I personally use ChatGPT the most myself.
Yeah.
So it sucks that I can't talk about it.
Yeah.
But Google Gemini, I think, has a very special ecosystem that is built out. Obviously, being the pioneer like search engine, that will always be there. But I think the Gemini model is very competitive to OpenAI and all the other product suites. And obviously, with the latest video generation model,
Yeah.
the VO3, as we've all seen,
Mind-blowing.
it's completely changed the way people are producing movies.
Correct.
And I really think that it's going to disrupt Hollywood.
Yeah.
It's really crazy when you look at the results.
For sure.
The realism, the fact that it's coupled, like video generations are coupled with voice.
You can almost not tell the difference anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I've created a lot myself. So I've seen, I've seen how magical the experience really is, and I think that really. That really was like a ChatGPT when ChatGPT first came out, kind of aha moment for me.
Moment, yeah.
But with
And
video
this videos,
generation,
yeah. I think that town. I mean that actual release blew everyone's mind.
Yeah, exactly. And the third app, this is a bit difficult because you want something that I use like every day, right?
Every now and then, like
Every now
more
and then.
often. It could be something that's also helps you in your daily life, or even let's say crypto life, right?
Yeah. It could be any app or just
Any
crypto. Recently I've actually really liked Infinex.
Okay.
It's not really like a AI app,
Yeah.
or at least it's not framed as an AI app.
Yeah.
But I've been really loving it because coming from someone who literally just wants to like transact on like different chains
Right.
very easily, I
Yeah.
use their switching function. Switching is just super
So-
simple,
yeah.
and like as a user, like I don't really want to be handling all these transactions myself.
Absolutely.
And the fact that like they're trying to build out this entire like portfolio suite, I think a lot of different companies have tried building a crypto portfolio.
Yeah.
But I don't think any of them has been successful until now, because there's a lot of like these underlying components that really makes it difficult.
Yeah.
Like the fact that Infinex has really pioneered the passkeys,
Yes.
the passkeys sort of way of signing into an account.
Yeah.
combined with the fact that you can literally do anything and everything on that app, or at least they're building for that vision. I've been seeing myself use that app more and more.
Yeah.
So yeah,
you're absolutely right. I think I'm a very active user of Infinix as well. I have a decent sized portfolio there now, just because I've been like bridging in and out so often.
Yeah.
You know, especially when you're like, because I don't use trading bots that often, but so when I'm bridging from cross chains, it's always Infinix switching, and the rates are actually pretty good as well.
Yeah. And you can always like select like, you know, rates from different sort of bridges if it's cheaper.
And stuff.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. You know, I think a lot of people here always hear about AI.
Yeah.
But we barely scratch the surface by just using ChatGPT.
Yeah.
And that's why like I wanted to hear more about like, you know, these very underrated apps that a lot of people, I mean, now there's like an app for everything out there, right? Like, I mean, even these trading DeFi agents and stuff like that. Like, that's one thing that I'm trying to get into the habit as well. Like, you know, since the past couple of months, like just keep trying new products.
Yeah.
And something that really kind of hits you will be something that, but I guess one last point of this particular part, like what was one apart, like if you spoke about Magic Newton and Infinix, what was one like completely under the radar project that came on Kaito that you may have never heard of, and you're like, and when you came across, you're like, wow, like this is actually something like, you know, I would use, and I started using because of Kaito, right? Because for me that was Infinix.
Oh, nice.
Right? When I saw Magic Newton, I was like, this is pretty interesting.
Yeah.
I started using it because of Magic. I didn't farm it though, by the way. I never spoke about it. But I often go to Kaito just to see the list of products that you guys onboard and test it out just to see like what would be like my style or my product of talking about a particular product.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of cases. I'm sure, like for a lot of people, like they only start talking about projects or start exploring projects because it's on Kaito.
Yeah.
For me, I think the most recent example would really just have to be Magic Newton.
Oh yeah.
Because as much as I want to test all the applications, like I don't really have time to test all the new applications that come on board. But I would say like, you know, Kaito really does mobilize people to do that, right?
Yeah.
Which is very cool to see.
Yeah.
Because as someone who maybe doesn't have time to like test all these new apps that come on board to Kaito, we can see that a lot of our yappers actually do the job for us. Like they use the applications, they talk about it, and they generally like, if they like it, they will share more about what they like or dislike about it, right?
Yep.
So I think the yappers are actually doing the job for me.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, I guess Sandra, we've been yapping a lot this past 1 hour, and
it's really been an hour.
Times pass. But I'm gonna quickly ask you this question.
Yeah.
Just because you know, I feel like a lot of people could value your input on this. Right? There's like two questions I've got. So, obviously, there's you know, a lot of people that are building in this space. What would you advise builders that are in that crossroad of AI and crypto, for instance, right? Yeah. Because I think you've first-handed seen the failures and success. This would be something that, you know, personally myself, I'd love to hear from you from the inside, but also I'm sure a lot of our viewers will be able to benefit from this as well. Yeah,
great question. I think I would give the advice for builders to ship fast and literally, like, if you have an idea, you can already iterate and like build a simple application on like Claude or like Cursor or Versal even, right? So there's a lot of applications where you can literally like stress test products very easily. Yep. And it's I would say it's very easy to go from 0 to 1 right now because of all these tools that are available. You have to make use of like all the tools that you can use to help ship your application very quickly, right? Yeah. And once you get to like ship the initial ideation or like the 1.0 model, 1.0 like version of your product, you should market it intensely. So as long as you have like a core product that you can already see the vision for the product, you should like go on TikTok, you know, like post about your content. A lot of these new applications are doing this strategy where they have like a version 1 model. They, you know, have a vision for the product and they immediately go on TikTok. They try to like talk about the product, try to see how people feel about the product.
Interesting.
Like, is this something that people want to use? Because that's like what really is the unlock right now, because there's so many products out there, and it's so easy to go from 0 to 1, as we can tell with all these applications. So your product has to be combined with like whether people really use it, right? And I would say, like, with ChatGPT and all these things coming up, there will be another like run for just application-based products that are very targeted. So you can see I've been seeing some like therapy related apps.
I see.
So one example would be like Dot.
Okay.
It's this app that I came across, and I downloaded it just to try it out. It's a very personalized, hyper personalized therapist like application.
Okay.
It's an AI bot that you're talking to, but it really understands like how you're feeling, depending on the context you share, obviously.
Right.
Because AI models can only be as smart as the context you feed it, right? Which is why like ChatGPT is the go-to application for most people because of the memory option that it's enabled. But with all these new like AI tools, like you can see a lot of people are shifting towards like very hyper personalized functions.
Right.
So like AI therapists, for example, there's like budgeting, finance apps that are taking off as well.
Yeah.
But people like people are like, oh, like what, ChatGPT can do everything. Why can't I do everything there?
Yep.
But people still love the experiences of going on different applications.
I agree.
It's the same thing as like going on Twitter versus like WhatsApp versus Telegram.
Yep.
It's like you have different apps for different functions. And that's going to be the same thing for AI, especially the surge of it. So I would say my advice is to ship fast, try to market your product intensely, in the different social media platforms, try to test the waters and like go from there.
Very well said. I think that's a very good advice that a lot of us could benefit from. Well, Sandra, nothing in Web3 can be concluded as a good session without a good alpha.
Yeah.
So share with us some sort of alpha that yappers can benefit from. Like what's the next big thing for Kaito? What's on the roadmap? What's something exciting that most of us have not heard of, or maybe heard a very little bit of?
Yeah, so we talked about like, I guess the 3 layers of like how information is organized.
Yeah.
And what we're trying to do next is the capital launchpad idea that we've been talking about for quite a while.
Yes.
So obviously, as I talked about, the social airdrop season kicked off in March.
Yes.
Kaito Earn season kicked off in like a month ago.
Yeah.
Right now, our focus is on the capital launchpad, which will allow like a broader set of yappers to participate in like capital formation in the markets. And we will have a lot of exciting deals that's coming up there.
Yep.
So a lot more opportunities for the yappers beyond just like the yapping side of things.
Interesting.
And you talked about the number where we're looking at close to 100 million total value distributed to yappers, to the Kaito ecosystem. We will definitely see a lot more projects trying to go this angle.
Yeah.
So, I would say keep up.
That will 2x or 3x very soon.
Hopefully, but I think this number will look pretty interesting as projects realize that they want to tap into like Kaito's ecosystem.
Yeah.
And I think that's two. I guess that's 2 pieces of alpha. But like obviously, we're trying to do a lot of work just on the product expansion side of things.
Yeah.
So hopefully, you'll be seeing new, interesting, creative campaigns that launch using Kaito.
Fantastic, Sandra. Thank you so much. I guess that was more than one, and I was thankful for that. But I genuinely enjoyed yapping a lot with you in real life and not just on Twitter.
I know.
Very good to see you. Thanks a lot for sharing all your insights, all your experience. I guess this going back to that at the very beginning, the curiosity. The diversity and just the fact of trying to learn and expand and experiment has I think that's the key takeaway for me, right? I think that's one thing I would share with all our viewer base here, our fans here as well, is that stay curious, stay hungry, stay foolish, and just keep experimenting, because really there's nothing much to lose. I mean, of course, don't dilute your personal brand for it, but I guess Kaito is building this humongous engine that's continuously going to give you that sort of opportunity. And just have fun while you're building your brand and monetary financial incentivizations as well. But Sandra, thank you so much for being on the Base Show. It was a pleasure having you.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a really good conversation.
Thank you. Until then, guys, next show. See you. Cheers.